Welcome to episode 75 of Stageworthy. I'm your host, Phil Rickaby. Stageworthy features conversations in Canadian theatre with artists of all stripes, from actor to director to playwright and more. If you want to drop me a line to tell me what you think of the podcast, or if you want to suggest somebody that I should talk to, you can find Stageworthy on Facebook and Twitter at StageworthyPod, and you can find the website at stageworthypodcast.com. If you like the podcast, I hope you'll consider leaving a comment or rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Music or wherever you get your podcasts. Ratings and comments really help people find the show. My guest this week is Annie Tuma, an actor and theatre creator originally from Minnesota but now based in Toronto. Look for her in the upcoming Dark Lady from Mystic Horde, Turtleneck from EmerGENce Theatre, and a musical adaptation of Pippi Longstocking setting sail on Lake Ontario this summer. You were saying that you originally from the U.S.
Yeah.
Okay. So what brings an American... Okay, where in the U.S.?
I am from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay. So what brings an American girl to Toronto, Canada to study theatre and just stay here?
It is... it is not too common, I'm finding. But there's more than you think.
Okay.
But no, Okay, so I went... Minnesota has reciprocity with Manitoba.
Okay.
So I paid provincial price to go to school in Winnipeg.
Okay.
University of Manitoba. But before that, I was in San Francisco. Started my degree there. Mm-hmm. Loved it, but it was super expensive since school in the States is obnoxious.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to have $80,000 of loans. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then my dad called me and was like, hey, I didn't realize, but Manitoba, you can go to school for like $3,000 a year. So then I made the switch.
What was your major at that time?
I was majoring in social work.
Okay.
And, social work.
Okay.
Maybe French, which is hilarious now. I don't speak any French, but that was what I started as.
Okay. So what made you switch to theatre?
So when I was in Winnipeg, I got a degree in psychology. Mm-hmm. And, but was like publicist of the Black Hole Theatre, their, school theatre company there. Mm-hmm. And then, was in all of the shows and was only doing theatre. Right. And then did some Fringe stuff, and directors in the area were like, oh, have you ever thought of going to theatre school? Like, I think we can't really offer you any more here. Why don't you consider it? And I was like, oh, wow. I have always been acting my whole life, and I think you're right. I think that was the push I needed.
So, okay, let's back up then. Uh-huh. When did you first start acting?
My first play was in a church basement. This Craig Wright, who went on to write like 6 Feet Under, and like big TV shows in New York. Mm-hmm. But when he lived in St. Paul, Minnesota, he had a little company called Classics on Cleveland, and we would do like the Iliad, but with like 6-year-olds, and it was and the Four Lovers 6-year-olds, and I played King Arthur. Okay. As my first role when I was 6 years old. Okay. And I was like carried in on this big throne. And from there I've been acting. Yeah,
okay, cool. And so you went to Winnipeg and studied social work, and they convinced you to find a theatre school and like do that full time?
Yeah, I auditioned for schools, and I auditioned for really only schools in Canada because those were cheaper. Yeah. Primarily was my main reason. I auditioned for also the University of Minnesota, the Guthrie program. They have a great one, but that was the only one in the States that I even auditioned for. And then, I got into Studio 58 in George Brown and picked George Brown.
What was it, just out of curiosity? I know what my reasons were for choosing George Brown at the time. What was it about George Brown that made you choose it over another school at the time?
I was actually talking to a couple professors and stuff at Manitoba since I knew nothing about the schools really, and they were, because it was more classical. I wanted something more text-based because I had done more collective creation and little writing things here and there, and so I just wanted classical training.
Because for me it was, I remember, because I had an offer to Ryerson when I applied for George Brown, and what it was for me was the business of acting course.
Oh, cool.
That Ryerson didn't have. So it was like, oh, they're gonna not just train me, but like tell me about the business. Okay,
that's what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that I didn't even know that. I didn't know anything. I came from from Winnipeg to here, and I remember on the first day, Jimmy was like, "Yeah, so this is a cut program," and I was like, "What? What does that mean? What?" Looking around at everyone, and they're like, "Who is this girl that doesn't even know what this school she got into?"
So was that like? So on the first day, is that like whenever they make everybody do monologues? Or
yeah, on the jam session day. Yeah. And for me, I was like, I'm American. If I get cut, I'll have to go back to the States because I'm only here on a study permit.
Right.
So then I was like, well, I'm just going to graduate and push that out of my head. And everything was fine.
At that point, you have to. At that point, you have to. Wow. So, I had a thought and I lost my train of thought. So this is the joy of the podcast where everybody gets to hear me being an idiot.
Keep going.
When you were a kid, do you remember what it was that first made you do theater? Because you were doing it for quite a while, but do you remember what it was that drew you to it?
I grew up in a very artistic family. Not theater-y, but my mom's an art teacher, and my dad's an actuary, but musician at heart. Okay. So we would always go to plays, and my mom like raised us with all the old movies. So I fell in love with My Fair Lady when I was little, and would dress up like Eliza Doolittle and sing the song in second grade. There's like a videotape of me singing "All I Want Is a Room Somewhere," like with all the coal over my face and everything. Yeah. So I guess she was one of my like idols when I was little, but really just kind of the community of my like neighborhood was also super artsy, and we just had lots of fun. I did this thing called the Backyard Plays that me and my sisters ran, and we would write shows for and cast the neighborhood kids.
That's amazing. We had something similar in my neighborhood in Ontario, in Ajax. When we would do something like that, we'd like create shows, and I think we did 1 year. There was one summer where there were like 3 competing shows, and we wanted to do a play in the yard, and then we all united to do one show. But for a while, it was very cutthroat and very like all this serious shit.
Oh my!
But yeah, so were you writing the shows of this?
I wrote. Me and my sister collaborated on one called Fogo, which was about a dog that got lost in the fog, and that was our big hit, along with the Hot Teapot. Where I played Mary Kate from Mary Kate and Ashley, and it was all this weird excursion through like China and randomly and America, and then it was very interactive though, because in the audience you would we had hidden a hot teapot, like a cardboard teapot under someone's seat. And so, like, if you sat on the hot teapot, you were, like, the winner of the play kind of thing. Okay. It was, like, this weird interactive. You had to, like, come up and answer some questions. But, yeah, those are my two hits, Fogo and the hot teapot.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Prepared you for Fringe when you got to Ottawa.
Yeah, exactly. Or Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. I don't know why I said Ottawa. What was, like, did you have any experience with Fringe before you hit Winnipeg?
No, not really. I hadn't even. I'd been to like some little ones in Minneapolis because they have a Fringe there, but it's not as big as Winnipeg or. Edmonton. Nothing is. So I didn't really know exactly what it was.
Yeah. Now I hear that one of the Australian ones is bigger than Edmonton, but Edmonton was the biggest one outside of Edinburgh for a long time. But like for me, that like I only knew the Toronto Fringe, and so when you hit the Winnipeg Fringe, and all you know is the Toronto or Montreal fringes, you just mind blown at how massive it is.
I know for me it was the opposite too, because I was did the Winnipeg Fringe and then came here and I was like, it's just not as fun. There's just not like I guess like the beer tent, it's just such a central thing to the city in Winnipeg.
Well, in Winnipeg, everybody knows, right? In Winnipeg, everybody knows what Fringe is. And here, if you say, hey, I'm doing a show in the Fringe, most people are like, what's the Fringe?
Yeah, you have to explain it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a very different world. But
great one.
It's incredible. I love Winnipeg Fringe is one of my favorites, and the ones that I've done Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg, and Edmonton. To Calgary. Oh yeah. Edmonton still scares the crap out of me for some reason. Even though it's
still have yet to go. Yeah.
It's still just like something about how massive it is, and just scares the crap out of me for some reason. But I don't know why. How many shows did you Did you do a bunch of shows at the Fringe in Winnipeg?
Just two.
Just two?
We did a Commedia dell'arte piece, and then one called Lady Skits.
What was the Commedia dell'arte one that you did?
It was with Tutti Fuli.
Okay.
And it was just like an improv classic Commedia dell'arte that I actually broke my ankle on stage during and had to be rushed to the emergency room.
How long ago was that?
That was, what was it, 4 years ago? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Going on 6.
Which venue were you in?
We were in the big one in the Forks.
The kids one.
Yeah.
I saw that show.
No way.
I was there with Keystone Theatre doing the Last Man on Earth. We were at the Manitoba Theatre Centre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. My friend who was in that cast, Stephen Lafreniere, who's going to be on the podcast soon, was flying out to help. We were in Edmonton, and he flew out to work with some of the people from your cast.
What's his name?
Stephen Lafreniere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came in for a couple days.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So talk about your small world.
Yeah, that's so funny. I love it. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, there you go.
There you
show.
No, I remember we saw that. We went to see that. We had a great time at that show.
Good. Yeah, it was just kind of a blast of a
that when you guys were doing that, did you have any do you guys know Commedia at all, or was that
I didn't.
Okay.
But it was headed by this guy Jeremy, and he Jeremy and my friend Jackie, and they did know a bit, especially Jeremy, but still it was kind of them leading it and teaching us what Commedia was.
Yeah.
Which was great. I learned a lot, and we had tons of different people come in and name. I'm so bad with names, I can't.
Course, yeah.
But yeah, different people come in and do little workshops with us.
Yeah.
So the process of it was the best part about the show, because I learned. I played Franceschina in the thing, but and Lovers. So I learned all about.
So you were one of the few unmasked people, which is always fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
What was it like? Because it struck me that, Commedia was something new, old but new in Winnipeg. That generally people don't know it very well.
Yeah.
So what was the audience, doing that show for an audience unfamiliar with Commedia dell'arte, what was that like?
Yeah, it was a bit, people kind of thought it was just like an improv show. So it kind of took, and we did do it very, present day Commedia, because people were, it was based off of that, but was definitely modern Commedia. Right. Yeah. But yeah, people were kind of I'm going to an improv show, and then they're oh, this seems a little bit different, because we would still bring in classic scenarios and classic little Latsies and everything, the Fly one, and and people would liked it, but we're kind of cool. Yeah. we got lots of okay.
It's hard for people who don't know it. We had a blast. I think we were shouting back a few times, but it's people don't know they can do shit like that.
Exactly, because the more audience, it's all about the audience.
Yeah.
So we kept the lights up a bit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Totally on. We're come on.
Yeah.
We're talking to you. We'd go in the crowd.
I think I remember some of the cast wandering around in the audience before the show.
I was one of those.
We were shouting. I think we were shouting in Pennsylvania, but I don't remember. but we were like shouting because we were trying to get we were into it and wanted other people to be into it. But it's hard. It's a hard sell for people sometimes.
Yeah, it was.
What was the other show that you did?
Lady Skits.
Okay, yeah. What was Lady Skits?
Which was it was like a female sketch comedy.
Okay.
Which was a blast. It was sold out, actually. That was like our killer show of this season. It was a BYO venue. And yeah, it ended with menstrual raps.
Okay, that's fun.
Which was a blast. And it was just me and 3 other girls that wrote it.
Had you done sketch before, or was this kind of new for you?
This was new for me. Again, this year was just full of these 2 shows in Winnipeg. I just learned so many things.
You just kept doing things you never done before.
Exactly.
That's great.
It was the best way to learn. And that's why Winnipeg was so great, because all these people just with their arms wide open, come on, we think you're cool. Let's teach you. Which I don't find as much here.
Well, I mean, generally, it's hard. I think that the theater community in Winnipeg is a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
And
definitely,
it's because it's smaller. I think it's more inclusive. I think because it's not as spread out here. We're just the idea of a theater community is so how can we have a community? We can't all hang out. There's no one place for us to go. I can't
There's inevitably going to be different pockets of people because it's so large. Yeah.
But I find that the Winnipeg Fringe generally, the Fringe in Winnipeg has sort of that open arms thing that is, I found, only really in a couple of smaller fringes. So it's this massive fringe that has the warmth of a smaller fringe. Yeah. Which is interesting. And it there's a freedom to experiment that you don't find in some other ones.
Totally. That's a good way of putting it. Because that was exactly what we did.
Well, you were doing that with lady sketches and with the Commedia shows.
Just trying it. I met someone and they're like, hey, we think you'd be good in this. Yeah. Do you want to do it? Yeah. And 2 of the people, one of them now has gone on to, she is a big comedian, or she's a comedian, runs women's open mic nights and stuff in Winnipeg and comes to Toronto a bunch. But she, so she was kind of the header of that one, which is great.
That's cool. Did you what kind of preparation do you have for doing sketch when you haven't done it before? How do you prepare for that?
I just did it. I didn't. I didn't really prepare. Okay. And then and it was we became best friends throughout the process. Yeah. So then it really was just us having a great time on stage. But yeah, that was pretty much for that. I just did it.
When you came from Winnipeg to Toronto, so you just sort of show up, you don't know anything about the program you're getting into. You don't know much about Toronto, I imagine. So what's that like? You come from Winnipeg, you show up in Toronto, and you don't know anything.
Yeah, I didn't. I had moved in with these 3 roommates that I showed up. I met one at Winnipeg Folk Fest. We were drinking gin and eating cold hot dogs, and she's like, "Hey, I'm looking for a roommate in Toronto." So yeah, it was a pretty hilarious
They weren't
time.
theater students?
No. So yeah, my whole time. Anyways, I really did coming here being wow, what's Toronto? Yeah. But no, I lived in San Francisco, and my mom's from Chicago, so I know Chicago very well. All my sisters live there, and so it wasn't really. I mean, Toronto obviously has its own vibes. Yeah. It's any city, there's a relationship with it. Of course, yeah. And I find Toronto, for me, has really been love-hate. I feel like I'm in such a relationship with the city.
I think that can be pretty common for people, is that you can be in kind of a love-hate sometimes. Yeah. Is it... I mean, we cannot talk about it if you don't want to, but I'm curious, the love-hate, what is it that you love, what is it that you hate?
Well, I guess definitely part of it is I didn't really realize that I was picking a city in a different country. And I'm realizing more recently how that's played a lot into it, because there's been visa issues and a ton of stuff with all of that. So...
does that stand in the way of your working at this point?
Yeah, actually. I just booked a commercial, and I'm on a post-graduation work permit, and I can't do it because ACTRA won't let me. And that also happened to me with an equity gig before, right when I was out of theater school. The union, I hadn't received my visa yet.
Okay.
And so they were like, the union will not let you because you are a risk to the production.
Okay.
So it's happened a bunch of times. And then I just had an equity gig at Magnus Theatre, and again, there was a bunch of just finagling that had to happen.
Did you get the gig?
I got it. This one I got it because I had the visa. So now I can work with equity.
Do you have a visa card or your equity card?
No, I can't. Okay. I found out I can't. I know.
Is this all because of the American thing?
It is. It's because I have to become a part of the American union before I can join the Canadian one. If that makes sense. Because I'm American. Unless I get permanent residency.
Okay.
Which is my next step. But
so complicated. Are you going for that?
I'm going for that. Yeah. But it takes years.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, I mean, it can. You know, it's a process. So, I mean, okay. So that's here's some of the things that you don't love about it.
Yeah.
What do you love about it?
I love the community that I have found here. I really do. I've met in theater school since I came knowing no one. I met amazing people that I create with all the time. And that I can't leave that.
No.
And I don't want to. They're my best friends.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But, so I love that aspect. I do love, there's so many different things going on. Such an international city.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love those aspects of it for sure.
And you've decided that you're going to stay, you're going to become Canadian?
I'm going to get my permanent residency. Yeah. That was very, in January this year, I had a big whole month of thinking about it. Do I want to be here? For sure. Because I just lost another thing because of ACTRA. Right. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I'm going to get my permanent residency. And then once I get that, I'll be fine. It's like getting a green card, right?
Yeah.
I can work in both places, no problem.
Cool. So are you doing mostly indie right now, or are you just trying to do everything that you can that they'll let you?
Yeah, I'm trying to do everything, but mostly indie, definitely.
Yeah?
Mostly indie.
What's your indie community? What's that like?
Great. I started a little theater company with a couple ladies when we started a fringe show, the classic way where you have to create a name for your company. How they keep making so many companies in the city. Yeah. But then we've done a couple shows since then. Yeah. And so we're doing a show this summer.
Okay.
On the pirate ship.
Oh, yeah.
Down, Pirate's Life, pirate ship. We're co-proing it with them because we're doing Pippi Longstocking.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love Pippi. Awesome. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard about Pippi since I was a kid. Pippi was a big deal when I was a kid, and you're so much Pippi Longstocking anyway.
Right? I know. She's so cool.
Yeah.
She's she's the strongest woman in the world.
Exactly.
Strongest girl in the world.
There you go.
Correct me. Yeah.
That's awesome. And when is that happening?
That's going to be end of August.
Nice.
August 23rd through September 4th.
Nice.
Yeah.
So when you're creating these things, do you write them? Is it collective creation? Do you combination of both?
Combination of both. Yeah. We've done. Our first show that was in the Fringe was collective creation, so we totally did from writings. We sat down and wrote for 3 months, and then got on our feet and made a show, which I love. But this one, we're adapting our own version of Pippi, and so we have someone who's writing music for it.
Nice.
And because you have to have all that sea shanty loveliness when you're out on Lake Ontario.
Also, you're on a pirate.
I know, and Pippi's dad was a pirate.
There you go. That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
I'm so excited.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But this one, and then me and another girl are adapting the script. He's doing the music, our friend Landon, and then we have. So we're creating it, but then it's not collective creation.
When you were in theater school, did they talk about self-production at all?
Not as much as I wish. They did. In business of acting, we learned a lot of great stuff, but I think you're just taking so many things in theater school that I didn't quite realize how important it was. Even though I knew, I just didn't So I'm still learning so much.
It's a shift, because when I was in theater school, when I was in theater school, that self-production didn't come in at all. When they talked about Fringe, it was like, well, if you can't do anything else, I guess you could do a Fringe show.
Really?
It was like Fringe was not the part of the theater career that it is now. It became, but at the time it was like, it's not really a thing. And so they were training us specifically for go to the audition, get the job, go to the next audition, get that was the career, right? Nobody talked about self-promotion or self-production. And I think it's probable that theater schools will eventually have bigger components, but it's a slow process to update that kind of curriculum. And I don't think anybody really could anticipate at the time that these programs are being put together how important
it is. How it's like a main part. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's not enough to just have one class. No. And even though we had great people that came in and talked to us, but it's one class 1 day a week for 1 year.
Yeah. But even that's not even acting, and that doesn't even really cover that. Only that's not theater production.
Totally.
That's like all of the things. And so maybe a little bit of it is
actually self-producing. But I know it's definitely like a slap in the face.
Yes, but I mean, I wish that there were more resources to prepare people for it. But I think it is an important part of like learning how to do that stuff. And Fringe is a really great way to learn how to do that with low pressure stakes, because it's not going to cost you as much to do your show at the Fringe. So it's a great way to get your feet wet before you do something stupid like book a theater for a play that you haven't written yet.
Yeah. Did you know that?
It's not like I'm speaking from personal experience.
Yeah, exactly. Huh?
But yeah, it's one of those things. And I guess when you went in, you didn't really expect that self-production was going to be a thing that you would do. I think most people don't. Yeah,
I know. I kind of knew that it would be a thing, but I didn't necessarily think that I would be the one producing it. Do you know what I mean?
You already had some Fringe experience in Winnipeg before you came to theater school here, so you had like a sense of it. But I feel like most people go into theater school thinking, and then I'm going to learn how to produce my own work, and I'm going to do that for a few years, and like people don't really think about that as part of their career. But it is such a massive part of it.
Yeah. Massive.
Have you done shows at the Toronto Fringe, or just like been a participant?
Toronto, we did one. You Know I Know. Okay. That was 2 years ago. Yeah, and that was the collective creation one. Okay. That I. It was cool. So again, it was a perfect way because we got drawn when during my third year of theater school, so then it was a great way. So it was pretty perfect.
Right when you're coming out. That's actually a great way to finish school.
Perfect. We had something set up. We were again learning so much right away because it's like, whoa, okay, so producing and this hat and writing and acting.
How is the school when you if you're getting into November of your last year and you're starting to think production for the summer? Was the school supportive of that, or did you have to do that sort of on the side?
We did on the side, totally on the side.
Yeah?
Yeah. I remember it was good though in the beginning because we would have free rehearsal space. So we would just stay really late and try and make time to, do some writing in the atrium and then
you can do that
get on our feet.
I keep forgetting that it's at the Young Center. Because for me, it was at the warehouse that no longer exists at King and River Street.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yep.
The legendary warehouse. And people would do the same thing there. Like, you're working on a thing, you just stay. Nobody asks questions. You just stay. Nobody locked. The front door gets locked. The theater doesn't get locked. The studios don't get locked. You just go in.
Just stay till someone kicks you out. When they come around, they're like, why are you here?
I never had that.
Oh, you didn't even have that? Oh, okay.
There, it was like once everybody left, it's not like there was a security guard coming through. Maybe maybe Larry would come around. And he's the last person to go, and he'd be like, "The code is such and such. Just make sure you activate the code." You just sort of. Under the breath, but it was like you just stay until you're done.
For us, they do come around. There is security that comes through eventually.
Eventually,
At 11:30 30. I remember them being like, "Why are you still here?" Oh, okay.
I'm working on my vocal mask. It's what you have. That's just what you say.
That's exactly vocal mask all year round, all the time.
It just keeps you safe.
Yeah.
Because vocal mask starts in September and it ends at the end of the year, so you're
bet.
safe.
You know.
Yeah. I remember. I lose some kids' minds. I was going to see the Young Center. And I was seeing a play, and I heard these kids behind me talking about vocal mask. What is a vocal mask? I don't even know. They'd obviously just been assigned it. And they're like, I couldn't resist. I turned around and I said, the trick is, that is nothing. It's what you make it. And they were like, What? And I'm like, nobody's going to tell you that.
No.
You figure that out. I'm just giving you a leg up.
Mm-hmm. Now you know.
Now you know.
Yeah.
Now you know. It's not a thing.
This.
Yeah, but... It's one of those things, nobody tells you because you have to stumble and find your way to figuring it out. Do you remember any of your vocal masks?
Oh, yes, I do. Okay. I do.
Are they ones that you want to forget, or are you proud of one or two?
In second year when we did the partner one, I did Sisters, and me and my good friend Jocelyn, who now is directing Pippi this summer. Nice. So went on to our creative relationship continues. Nice. But we had so much fun working on it. We had such a blast and learned so much. I wish that we could go back and watch it because I'm sure it was not, in my head it's amazing, but I know it was not amazing or taken out of the scenario that it was. Yeah. It was a different, it was the perfect art for that moment with your friends and colleagues. So I do love my second year one. What about your
third year one? How did you feel about that one?
My third year one, I did Home was my word. Again, with the relationship of the city, I was very, I was do I like what I lived in all these different places and which one's my home and what makes a home. But I loved working on it. I loved working on it. I learned so much. Yeah. But it didn't, probably just because it was just me up on stage. It doesn't have as much of an impact as the partner one. Yeah. For me personally, I learned more. It was scarier.
It's tough.
Which was what I got from it.
It's tough up there alone, right? I actually know a couple of people who sort of did really well with their vocal mask and sort of became solo performers.
Cool.
Because of it.
Because of that kind of the first...
that sort of getting that taste for being up there. But it's not... It's terrifying. Especially... there's a warm feeling, but it's also this is my grade. Yeah. This is my whole year has come to this moment. Yeah. Which is a lot to put on a thing.
So much. Yeah. But also it's such an important part of third year. And just, I don't know why. Yeah, I think everyone needs to do it.
Do you, in terms of, in your opinion, what's your opinion of what one gets out of doing a vocal mask?
One big thing I think was taste. Kind of, what I like, and you learn a lot about that in theatre school just in general. But I think it really cinched it when you're up there, just you on stage having to try out your taste, and seeing what people think about it. This is something that I've just worked on with myself, and my prop was a shopping cart, so myself and a shopping cart, and so that, and it's. Since you aren't writing it, it's not as much of that, but definitely you kind of write some of it anyways, right? Well, so it did bring out that also with me.
The interesting thing is it's like a remix, right? It's like remixing. It's the way somebody would remix music. You remix words and quotes and paragraphs to make a thing.
Yeah, totally. DJ. Yeah. Being your own DJ.
Oh, shit, man. These are things I wish I know. I didn't think of this when I was doing mine. This is you DJing, you curating a thing. But, of course, you never, is that idea of, if you were to go back, or knowing what you know now and start over again, how awesome would you be, right?
Yeah.
You would have discovered all this stuff. Aside from taste, what did vocal mask teach you?
My process more.
Okay.
Which, again, these are things you learn throughout whole school, but it was good to try it out on something that just you are working on, also that I know I procrastinate, so that was a big one for me too. I was like, whoa, you really procrastinate.
Well, I mean, at least you know there's like a deadline by which you're going to have to finish it.
Mm-hmm. And you get it done. You definitely do.
Mean, some of it is a lot of last minute, late nights.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of oh fuck as you like put things together, but like that deadline, that's one of the things that I've sort of learned about creating theater is like give yourself a deadline you can't escape.
Yep.
To make a thing happen.
There we go. That's one of the main things I learned. Yeah.
Because I wrote a thing for like 8 years before I had a deadline, and then I finished it. You know, because I couldn't.
Because you needed to.
No reason to finish it if you don't have a deadline.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Totally.
So you finished theater school. You've been out of school for 2 years, and you are working out. You're staying in. You're in Toronto for the long haul. Aside from Pippi Longstocking, is there anything coming up for you?
Right now, but in June, I'm part of a show called The Dark Lady. Okay. Which is kind of a dance. It's half dancers, half actors. Okay. And it's really weird. It's again like kind of a longer term development thing. We've been working on it for a year. So yeah, I'm doing that. It's kind of we're playing gods and goddesses. So I'm Persephone. Okay. And it takes place in like a gallery in Kensington. So we're kind of giving everyone like the club feel, and we'll take you through this weird dance piece.
And so that's June. Who's that with? Is that with?
It's a friend, Mystic Horde.
Okay. What gallery is it? Do you know the name of the gallery?
And I don't. It's escaping me. I forget. Annie. But
yeah. So
in Kensington.
Are you dancing in it, or are you just speaking in it?
I'm dancing in it too.
How does that feel? Like, were you a dancer by heart, or was that? Because I know there were two kinds of people when I was in theater school. There were the people who like took to dancing, and there were the people who had dancing forced upon them. Fair.
Yep. You know, I was in the circus actually when I was younger, so that. Actually, that was one of the main reasons that won me to become an actor. Going back to that question.
Well, there we go.
There we go. You realize things as you talk.
Now I'm fascinated by doing circus. What were you doing in the circus at the time?
Bungee trapeze, hoops, silks.
And how old were you?
It was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. So finished when I was 18. And it was amazing. I would go every day after school and go train.
Have you kept up with your circus studies?
This is the thing. I hurt myself.
Oh, jeez.
I fell off a silk and landed on my upper back. I didn't completely fall, but they're stretchy when they're new. Yeah. And I climbed up it and thought I was high enough, wasn't, and like bounced on the ground. Wow. And so but I still, going back to like dancer and mover, I still like have that movement in my body. So I was just in a show actually at Magnus Theatre, The Jungle Book, where we had to climb ropes and stuff like that. Yeah. So that kind of thing is still in my body, but I don't practice circus anymore.
So as somebody who's like faced with like doing this show that's dance, you're not freaked out by it because you have this background.
Yeah, I'm not freaked out. I love it. I love it. I love weird movement. We're doing like a bit of like Suzuki kind of work throughout the process. And I kind of like pushing your body to the limit, and then what happens when you take yourself as far as you can go. And like the ecstasy and everything that comes with that is what we're exploring with it. So I love that. Yeah. And that's why it's half dancers, half not, because half the people are really amazing, I guess, like technical movers, and then the other half of us are more I'll just kind of my body will do its thing. Yeah. Which is, I've learned a lot though.
And did you see yourself as a dancer before this? Circus aside, but like if somebody had said, this is a role for a dancer.
No. I'm like a mover, I guess. I categorize myself, like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
When you have to put a name to it.
Yes.
I say, because I don't know, like, technique, but I definitely, I love movement, and I love movement-based theater and all of that.
It's funny, because when I was when we formed Keystone Theatre back in the day, and Richard Bowen said it's physical theater. I was like, I don't do theater. I don't do physical theater. He was like, I think you do. I think you can. And I was like, I don't know. Fine, I'll give it a try. And it was like 4 years in when I was like, okay, I can do physical theater. But I think I can only do that kind. But it was like just this revelation. Oh, okay.
I can. I have a body.
Yeah.
Hey, I can do physical theater.
Which was crazy because when I was in theater school, I was like one of those people who I had dance forced upon me, and it was did not come naturally at all. And every dance class was a struggle for me.
I know. I know those.
Yeah. I remember we had somebody came in to do tap with us. She came in as our dance teacher.
We didn't do that.
No,
Jealous.
well, our dance teacher was sick, and so they brought in somebody.
Okay.
And she taught tap in I think a very classical drill sergeant kind of way, and I didn't take to it. If she didn't catch it right away, she was like, "No,
please don't! I can't. Just take these shoes off.
I just want to learn acting.
Yeah,
I can't do any of this.
Does this matter?
It's terrible. It's dying inside. Yeah. Are you on the internets? Do you have a website? Do you have Twitter?
Internet's Fourth Gorgon Theatre. Yes.
Cool.
Fourthgorgon.com.
Nice.
And
is this one of those names that you come up with when you have to come up with something?
It is.
At Fringe?
Yeah, that's the one.
That's amazing.
It is. But I love it. We do love it now.
That's good. I remember years ago there was a company, and I was at the Fringe Lottery, and their name was We Spent the Rent. It's just all these names that come up.
Exactly. That was totally us.
Yeah. Twitter?
Twitter? No.
Twitter, no?
Instagram? Yes. Tuma.
Tuma, that's good.
Tuma 2, the number ma. There we go. Yep.
That's good. That's awesome.
And then the Book of Face, obviously.
Of course.
Yes.
In terms of what the stuff that's coming up for you, you've got this dance show, you've got Pippi Longstocking. Are you able to look ahead further than that? Are there things that you're looking at for further?
No, nothing. Right now, for further, is really just getting my permanent residency papers in. That's what's very time-consuming right now. But I'm just looking to September 4th.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
And then who knows? Yeah, I do. Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Awesome. Thank you.